Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning for our budget study session. We are going to get some final numbers from the budget from the county that we've been anticipating so that we can start thinking about the final numbers on the budget for tonight's hearing. So thank you very much for joining us. Ruth, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Adamson.
Here.
Bray.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Johnston.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Orr.
Here.
Platt.
Here.
There.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and turn the time over to Joyce and just get this thing started then.
Okay. Joyce Stroshine, Chief Financial Officer for the city. Today I'm going to bring you back up to where we were the last time we met. So I'm going to kind of update you on what the tax solution was. At this point, I'm going to start with the taxes. What you did was you made the decision to take full authority for the 3% and, of course, what we estimated for new construction. So we added into the budget $829,572 for the 3% number. New construction was estimated at $20 million, which produced an amount of $222,231. Down below, we added the READY economic development contribution of $35,000, an economic development position of $114,300, fleet development contingency of $150,000, and then to balance everything and to bring us to zero, we added additional capital contingency of $572,834, and that's where we ended. Now I'm going to take us over to property tax and let you know where the final valuation numbers came in.
We're on the right page, right?
Okay, that's the second page. You have the tax solution and then you have the property tax sheet. So under Bannock County, we have $2,482,351,033. Powell County, that's in a TIF district, so it stays flat at $2,711,780. New construction came in higher than we expected. It was at $879,927. New annexation, $1,886,597. For an overall, that dropped off on my sheet, hang on. Of $2,515,829,337, which you can see in the purple square down here. That updates us for all those. Now, the only one that is an estimate, so if you look at this handout that I gave you from the county, which shows the $2,513,117,557. You'll notice that real and personal those are final numbers, but you have estimated operating property from the State Tax Commission because they don't complete that evaluation until October, November. So it's an estimated number from the state.
Has that fluctuated much in the past?
No, it's usually within a couple million at the most.
Okay.
It can actually go up, you know.
Okay, but not like some other.
No. I haven't seen anything where it jumps, where it would change you completely. It's just the timing. This is the way it works, and I can't control that part of it, just so you know. So anyway, kind of an important number because it's really a good number for us this year. Valuation increase. So if I look at where I was last year, where I am this year for Bannock County, and overall, I'm up $59,018,341. Now within that, I have approximately a little over $30 million that represents new construction and annexation. So what that tells you is existing property within the city grew in value this past year.
And what was our number that we plugged in there that we were hoping for?
Well, the one that we put in was we estimated $20 million on new construction. And basically new construction and annexation came in at almost a little over $10 million more. So the impact of that, go back to the tax solution, or I will. I kind of put down the calculation here. So we estimated 222,231. What really came in was 341,864 of new dollars. So we had growth in that particular pocket of 119,600.
Okay, this is not paperwork that we have on our desk in front of us.
Yes, you have that, not the calculation I just
Right.
did.
Okay.
So the 231 is actually,
That's what we built into the budget,
yeah, the real number though is
41,864. And they give you, if you look at, let's see, page 3 of this letter from the county, you have to go back to the L2 worksheet. They don't give you the total, but they give you the two numbers. They give you new construction, which is at $320,901. And then they give you annexation at $20,963. The combination of the two gets you the 341. And actually, if you look at my cell, I don't know if you can see that though, up in the top where it says FX, you see the 320,901 plus the 20,963. You have to really look, it's way up here. But that's me adding those two numbers together. So that's where this number comes from. So what does that do to us overall? If we leave everything right where we have it, no changes made, your levy rate would go up by 1.39%. What is the impact on a $100,000 home, taxable home? It would be $15.53 a year. More. Overall, on a house value of $100,000, their overall tax with this increase would be $1,135.87 for the city's portion of tax. Another little factoid that you probably ought to be aware of, because nothing is straightforward and simple when you start playing in the property tax world. Can I say that? So if you look at the orange column here, it tells us how much right now that we have that we're planning to levy for each of the different departments that can levy tax. So you have the general fund, our insurance fund, our street fund, our recreation fund, cemetery, airport, library, and of course our animal bond shelter. And so the total that we have in this picture is $28,576,621. But when you look at that last page that tells me how much I can levy for, this one right here, at the bottom, it tells you the maximum amount of non-exempt property tax that I can levy. It's $28,470,424. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're over, right? But we aren't, because you have to exclude your bond. Your bond is considered exempt tax. It's all the rest are non-exempt. And so you subtract it out, and we're well under our threshold. So I just wanted to put that out in case that caught your eye and you were wondering how we could. We're okay on that factor. And I've done the calculations down here just so you can see it on the sheet.
So you've updated
Minus the bond.
our solutions with the correct numbers, correct?
Right, and with all the assumptions of what you took still built in.
Okay, because I thought we were fairly close to having a flat levy with the numbers we had before, which turned out to be low. So I'm trying to figure out why the levy went up.
We were still going to go up. We were going to go up, I want to say, about somewhere between 2% and 3%.
Yeah, 3%.
if I remember, we talked about different solutions, and
we can
she
still-
played with
we
that
can
for us,
still
and it
adjust
went
the
up and down,
budget
and we
department.
I can bring up
decided
another
to.
spreadsheet which has the old numbers on it, so if you need to see that, but it was between 2% and 3%.
Okay.
I think we had done that and played around with it because there's a desire to make sure that we don't go up, and we wanted to find out what it was, and then we didn't know what these final numbers were, and so we said, let's put it all in and we'll get it wrote that today.
Okay.
So really, at this point, I'm just looking for direction on what you want me to do with property tax. And then, of course, we'll have to go back to the front sheet and make adjustments if you're making any changes. If you leave it as is, then we're where we are right now, okay? And then,
So Joyce, the question is this the time that if we want to adjust some department budgets, we do it, or we go ahead and do this and we can adjust those later?
well...
And I'm
you're
talking
trying-
not upward or downward. As long
Okay, at this point, you can't make any department go up.
Right.
Okay? You've published, and those numbers that you published for each fund cannot go higher than where they are. That's why we took the whole 3%, was because we didn't know what valuation numbers were, and so we were kind of posturing ourselves so we can make the most of whatever valuation numbers came in. At this point, you could make departments go down, but it gets a little complicated because we don't have a lot of time to, if you're talking drastic changes.
I personally felt like we did a pretty good job with the budget, and we're continuing to try to fund some capital, which we haven't been doing in past years. I felt like we came up with a pretty good number, and now hearing that the income's a little higher, and that will help keep the levy increase down, I think it works for me, and that would be my suggestion, is just...
Yeah. If you leave things right where they are right now, just so you know how much you would end up with capital contingency, which is dollars that you get to choose how to spend on capital needs of the city, you'd be sitting at $1,751,106 of flexibility for untagged projects for next year.
And we
Which
have
is-
a bunch of them, and we know that, and we know historically too, if we have a little money in the bank like that, sometimes opportunities come along, like on a fire truck or on police cars or a piece of equipment somewhere else, that we can actually save some money if we have some money to do something. And
Right.
I think that puts us in a lot better position than we've been in for a lot of years.
Well, I think you're seeing the effects of it just in fiscal year 17 by taking that approach last year when you took the full 3% and you gave yourself that capital contingency. It allowed you that flexibility to make choices during the year and during the budget cycle. This would just enhance it more. So, at this point.
Go ahead.
Well, the question I had, when you were giving us the per 100,000 house value, was that based on the 3% we have or on the 1 point?
Okay, what this column right here where I have 100,000 and I do the rate change,
Yeah.
that's the difference between the rate that is under 18 and then 17, the difference. Okay, so that's telling you how much it's going to go up. When I come over here, I'm grabbing the 18's rate. So the $1,135.87 represents the forecast of where you're going to with your new rate.
And that's with the 1.39 only difference?
Is that with the
Yeah.
full 3%?
It's the full 3% when you look at this number right here represents a full levy. This number right here, I'm trying to point to it,
Yeah.
is the same as this one here, which is the full levy rate. The full levy rate for us. Remember, you're in Code Area 1. There's 5 districts in Code Area 1. Okay?
But I think what she's asking is the rate change based on this would be 1.39%, the levy rate.
This formula in here takes the 0.011358728 and subtracts it from 0.011203458.
Right.
So that's the net change.
So I think what she's asking then that $15 is based on the 1.39% increase on a $100,000 home.
It's the increase between the two rates, the difference.
Over last year versus this year.
That's right.
Indulge me, do you have available the increases on the top 4 budgets, the highest budgets for the city of Pocatello, and how much they increased this year? Is that problematic or?
No, let me go out here and I've got to
I
think.
mean,
right.
I think that
I've got to think back.
That determines what, 60, 70% of the entire city budget as far as the,
So which one are you trying to look at?
well, our top four, which would be police, fire,
Okay,
library, and parks.
yes, that's right.
Parks, I think so.
So we'll go to police. It's their first up. So their budget actually overall went down.
Okay, so police actually overall went down.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that.
Right.
Partly it was the removal, well, it was the removal of the radios, because we had the radios budgeted in there last year in 17, and you had some retirements. In fire, theirs went down by 3.12%.
Went down.
Partly that's because they had a capital increase, because of the CBAs, the CBAs that were
Right.
there. Okay, so it's kind of hard to make that judgment. We'd have to
Well-
strip things out a little bit, and I didn't do that.
Yeah, okay.
And then you wanted to know parks. Parks, we increased by 6.42%. Now remember, one of the big things that we did for them was to start, they had no capital budget. We started putting in a $20,000 capital budget for them so that they could start setting aside monies for a game mower in 4 to 5 years if they needed it.
Okay,
Okay? That was the big change that happened to their budget,
okay.
and the only increase overall. Library. I was trying to think where else I was going. Libraries went up by 1.15%. That was mostly, it looks like it was in the in your employee section, medical, and we of course moved to the new pay plan. So there were increases that occurred in those sections for all departments.
Yeah. So back to the fire department. We had a lengthy discussion about the overtime budget. Did that
Yes.
stay flat? Or what, I mean,
We did not, if you go back to tax solution, I'm going to take you back there now. I have to think which one I'm in here. They had, these were the requested items they had: overtime, medical, physical, safety equipment, operating equipment, education benefit, and electrical, and you did not choose to give them any additional authority. So it's not in the budget. They were kept flat.
okay, so how much is the fire overtime budget?
Right now,
Is it 250?
I'm going to give you 17s because I have it handy. Whoops.
I apologize for drilling you here on this, but
That's all right. I brought my book.
I'm trying to figure out a way to start paying for a fire engine.
Well, now wait a minute. There's 119. Let's go back to their budget. I'll answer.
Well, I
that
understand
question.
there's money that's in there for capital apparatus equipment, okay?
There is money. It was technically, we moved it into capital outlay, but there is 121,000 set up for debt service payments for fire trucks.
Okay.
They were supposed to do that this year. They delayed it, and so the intent is next year that they would do that. I think his intent, he wants to have 3 pumper trucks, and so he may have to take his capital outlay, which is at $85,000 next year in 18's budget, and add it to the debt service to produce the money necessary for a payment on 3 pumpers.
Right.
Yeah.
So does that help you with your question?
Well, yeah, it does. But again, what's the total overtime
Okay.
budget?
Now, we're just in the fire department. Remember, they have the ambulance.
Right.
I don't have them added together, but I can get there.
And the ambulance is adjusted by the county, is that?
It's paid for by the county. We don't contribute on
Okay.
that side.
And we don't know what the county's done with the ambulance?
They increased their budget. I'll have to look here real quick. They gave them pretty much what they had asked for.
Good.
Overtime is set up in here. You have a couple of different sections. I'm going to tell you what the sections are, and then I'm going to tell you the grand total. You have overtime that's scheduled, working out of class, holiday pay, and overtime unscheduled. Do you want the overtimes individually?
Yes, I would like that.
Okay, so you have unscheduled, which is $204,851. And then you have the scheduled overtime, which is $96,324. And if you want to know what the difference between the two are, if I work my 3 24-hour shifts in my 9-day period, FLSA says 68 hours is considered regular time, and anything above that is considered overtime. So since we scheduled them for 72, it becomes 4 hours of scheduled overtime. Okay? Now, under the unscheduled section, if I call Joe in to come in and work, it's considered unscheduled overtime. And so those are the two pockets you're dealing with.
So we're
It's still
calling-
overtime.
Okay.
It's just how we
A couple
want
of
it.
years ago, we had, I guess, an immense amount of unscheduled overtime because we had 11 firefighters on light duty.
It impacts it, yes.
And one of the things the police chief said is that they just can't get people come in and take the shifts at time
You run them
The
both.
fire chief, you mean?
The fire chief.
You said the police.
Yeah, the fire chief. I mean, I'm sorry if I say chief. Sorry, cockeyed. But the fire chief indicated that it was difficult sometimes to get people to come in and take call, and there was this calling list or such.
Well, and they have to go based on seniority. It's very complicated how they call people in.
Well,
And I'm not going to go
okay.
any more into that than that
Right.
because that's
So
about
where's
as
the
much
budget?
as I know.
Okay, well, it is. But again, it's also our problem when we've got $300,000 in overtime.
Well, and that's just in the fire department.
So I guess the
Still have
question
ambulance
from
as
the
well.
standpoint,
Another 300,000.
yeah, another 300,000 in the ambulance. Or,
I can tell you what the ambulance
Okay.
is if you
Tell me
want.
that.
Might as well give you the actual numbers. And this is, now, of course, I'm giving you 17's budget, okay?
Yeah,
And
that's
I've got
fine.
the other one here. Okay, in the ambulance, scheduled overtime is at $39,914, and unscheduled is at $179,655.
39 and 170, what?
$179,655.
So that's 218,000 approximately.
And I know roughly, I will give you rough information that I can remember.
Right.
On ambulance budget that they submitted, they were to receive an additional $78,000 in the unscheduled.
Right.
Okay.
It is.
And I'm not sure where they are in the adoption process. I know we published high, at least to what Christie thought that they were going to, the most that they could adopt, and I'll have to wait to get the final numbers for them, which I'll need here in the next week.
Where I'm going with this is unscheduled is a huge amount of that budget. Okay.
It is.
How do we get our employees, because if I'm not incorrect, the unscheduled is because individuals are either light duty or they call in sick or they're
On vacation.
okay.
I think they have so many slots that they can, that can get filled up with those, but if it goes above and beyond that, that's when you're into the overtime.
But it's continued to accelerate in the amount, okay? So I'm trying to figure out a way to either make the leadership understand that this has got to change, or we've got to change it for them. And again, that's why I was asking whether we start, if we look at these now on adjustments, or whether we wait till after.
But you can always do a holdback. Okay, let's say we adopt the budget. You're okay with everything? We adopt the budget as is. You can get to October 1 and you can say, I'm holding back this much. We do that with retirements. Think of it along the lines of the retirements. We give you the authority because John could retire, but John doesn't retire. We take that authority away so you can't spend it on other purposes. You can do the same thing in other realms. So, I mean, it's just another way of forcing management of it. Does that help you in
Right.
trying to?
So maybe you can help me out here. Then again, squirrel just hit the fan, so I'm jumping gears into another area.
Okay, and I hope I jump with you.
That's better than something else hitting the fan.
Yeah, I know. So, some people really might get offended with squirrels hitting the fan, but, the 1.139% on the levy increase equates to how many dollars? If the levy was to stay flat this year, what would we have to come up with?
I knew you were going to ask that question.
Well, you after almost 4 years, you're beginning to anticipate all this.
That's as close as I can get it.
What's that?
You have to reduce it by 395,000.
395,000.
It'll give us 17-cent savings overall.
Okay.
In the per 100,000 house?
Yes.
A lot of money.
I think we need to take a longer picture than just 1 year to the next year. Because when we look at this and we say that's only so much this year, I just ran a little bit and I don't know how accurate it is. But if we look at a 5-year trend or something like that, we're way ahead of the rate of inflation when you put it into an inflation calculator. If you look at what a house was paying 5 years ago versus what now, we're about 7% ahead of.
Well, what do you say?
You've got, I understand what you're saying, but you've got an outlier here. And the outlier is when the pilot came off the books and you had to replace it with property tax. It wasn't so much that you took more dollars in that year, you had to replace those dollars.
Did you have to replace, or did we avoid having to cut because of pilot?
No, because...
Wait a second, Joey.
Okay.
Because we never cut like other cities in the state did when the economy turned down. We were spared that. We never had to go and take a knife to our budget. What our Armageddon was, so to speak, was the pilot. But we had chose not to cut. We chose to move forward and just absorb it. But,
and I'm not disagreeing completely with what your statement is. The only statement I would make to bring clarification is when the pilot, at the time that the pilot went away, it was valued at about $2.4 million. That's what was coming from the utility funds into the general fund. When we replaced it with property tax that year, we only took an additional $1.9 million, which tells me you cut things by about $500,000 and didn't allow any growth that year, even though you took a large amount, right? So I wouldn't say that we didn't cut some at that time, because I don't think that would be an appropriate statement. But as far as when you go back and you talk about, you went into a recession in 2008, were we doing any cutting at that time? No. Now, we weren't growing a lot, but we weren't cutting either.
But our economy was sound compared to other communities.
Yes.
And we weren't forced to like other communities. And when we had our own time of crisis, we adjusted $500,000, but we adjusted budget by $1.9 million.
Yes, you cut in a way when the pilot did the switch over, but back in 2008 you weren't cutting.
And we could have chose to take that 1.9 million and cut it out all the budgets. We just chose not to do that.
You would have had some pretty drastic change to services if you had done that at that point. And I don't think anybody was ready to do that then.
Heidi?
Well, I had a question. So I'm hearing what you're saying about looking back at the 5 years, and I'm just curious, what would be your recommendation to how to address that? What specifically would you want to change?
I'm real uncomfortable with the budget, with the levy going up. I think we ought to at least stabilize. There are people in the community that say anything over a 1% tax for a city is you're reaching up higher. When we talk about economic development, people are going to look at what they're paying at property taxes as competitive analysis too. And we're one of the higher cities.
So where should we?
Well, I think you got a whole lot.
That's not true. It's just not true, okay?
Well,
based on percentage, maybe yes. On dollars, no, it is not true. Because I own property in multiple cities and counties. It's not.
Well, I look at the levy rates for other major cities in Idaho, and I see that we come in as one of the top levied cities.
Well, the problem with the levy rate is each city can't be evaluated. Well, how much exempt property, how much non-exempt property you have within a city. Are you providing more services? To me, I think you almost have to go to what is the cost of your services and compare those, because that's more of an equivalent. What am I providing to my citizen? Not so much how I'm paying for it, but what am I providing? Am I providing that much more in services than somebody of an equal size? Or am I providing less? Those would be the questions I'd be asking. Because levy rates create, if you cater everything to the levy rate, you could create a real volatile system of service because of the fact that you have no control over too many parts of the levy rate. So that
Well,
would be
we've
my
had,
question.
we've had this debate for the 16 years that I've been here, and I don't disagree with you, Roger. We've had this debate. But on the flip side of that is, I think that these last year and this year, two of the best budgets we've put together since I've been around here. And we've been through some really, really tough times. And it hasn't always been that tough. But we've always had that attitude about the levy and letting the levy drive everything. And we haven't been able to take care of business. I mean, historically, we haven't done a really good job with the streets. Now we are. People are really, really happy about that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing better at now than historically we haven't. And I personally think, at least the people that I talk to, that's what they want to see. They want us to keep our taxes as low as we can keep them, but they want stuff to be taken care of. And it's pretty easy, like we've done in the past, to let all the capital stuff slide and just get by with, we need 6 police cars, we get by with 4. You know, I mean, when we need a fire truck, we'll try to figure out how to make it work. We've always done that. I get that. We have to do that in our own homes, in our own lives as well. And I get that. But I still feel like taking the amount of taxes we've been taking the last couple of years, including this year, we're finally getting the job done. We're putting money into the capital budgets, and we're taking better care of business, and we're putting ourselves in a better position as our town does start to grow, which it appears that it is. The economy's turned around. And I think we need to try to stay ahead of that instead of behind it all the time. And I think that's where that puts us.
And following up with what you're saying, I think, Gary, is that these tax-exempt properties, we have a lot of them in Bannock County and in Pocatello.
Yep.
And I would trade ISU and that property that is tax-exempt, I would take the employment that's generated there that gives us so much more. And so I sometimes think it's not a fair comparison with some other communities in ours. So I'm with you. We've done extremely well the last couple of years, in my opinion.
So Joyce, tell me, if we work really hard and we showed this little graph go down, now we've
Got
decided
it
not
flat.
to do what we should and we go down with it even. And then we're one of, what, 7 taxing districts in our area?
5.
One of 5?
So Code Area 1 is Pocatello, School District 25, Bannock County Road and Bridge, and the ambulance.
Mosquito.
Oh, and I think there's the mosquito, so I might be at 6.
So there's 6. So any of those, if we drop it down and any of those raise it up, then our line still goes up.
Yeah,
Is
the
that
Code Area
correct?
1 will go up.
But not
If you
our
look at the individual,
line.
not our
Not our
line,
line,
but
but-
when people are paying their tax, they really see Code Area 1. They don't see just us, or because you're not paying each individual one. So yeah, overall, people could come to you and say, "Why'd my taxes go up?" And you're thinking, "We kept it flat." Well, it's because the others had an impact as well. So
You know, if we talk about if we were going to leave the levy rate flat, I think the number was close to 400,000. So let's say we take $400,000 out of that capital that we got sitting there, so we can tell the world we left the levy rate flat, make that declaration. I think it puts us in a worse position. It puts us in a position we've been for a lot of years. I like having the money available in the capital line item to do smart, right things when we have an opportunity to do that. And this next year, we may or we may not, but we may have one of the departments come to us and say they're ready to buy a fire truck. There's a demo model that's out there. If we got the cash to buy it, we can save $40,000. To me, it's just, it's not like we're taking that money and squandering it. I think we're taking that money and we're keeping it in a place to do a better job long-term of what we're looking to do. And as we look out about all the big things that could and should be happening, it's not going to get easier as that happens. I mean, if we start seeing a lot of growth in a couple of years, it's going to get harder than it is now to keep up with it, you know, because that money doesn't start coming for a while. So
That's right.
I still think we're in a really, really good position right where we're at.
Yeah. So, Mayor?
I just, then I'll go to Mike. I agree with Gary. I think this last 2 budgets has been incredible. I mean, we've worked hard, we've made hard decisions. And it's not easy to see a levy rate go up. It's not easy to do that, but I think we've done what we've needed to do to get ahead of the game, if you will. And I hate to see it slide backwards at this point. We made hard decisions last year. These are hard decisions this year. Hopefully we can stop making hard decisions eventually, but at some point you've got to make those decisions to catch up and to move ahead of it. But
I think they're wise decisions, Mr. Mayor.
I think they are wise decisions. Thank you.
One other point I would
Mike.
make out, that 1.39%, that's still less than your CPI. So, just a thought.
This year's CPI,
Yes, that's right.
yeah. Mike?
Well, as I've analyzed this, what I've determined, and some of the things that Councilman Bray are in fact true. But here's what my analysis says, is that the pilot was artificially subsidizing the general fund.
absolutely.
And by analysis, if we took the $3 to $4 million that was bringing in every year, this levy would actually be down approximately at the FY12 area, based on what the council has done over the last 2 years. So we've had to address that part of it. And I agree with Councilman Moore that as painful as it's been and as lengthy as it's been, these are probably 2 of the best budget years that he's seen. I'm going to have to go with him because he's been here since Moses.
1889 at least.
1889.
But I'm also looking.
It feels like I've been here 50.
Yeah,
So.
I'm looking at, and again, sitting on boards that do deal with leases. The leases have been ranging from this year for airport leases a CPI of 1.2%. I think I've seen CPIs in the last 4 years as high as 2.1% or a bit higher.
Depends on when they measure it.
Right, absolutely. So if you take those, over 5 years, that's about a 6-7% increase in the cost of living. Housing aside, that's a valuation issue that based on geographic areas and not based on the national cost of the inflation rate and such, and cost of goods and services. So I mean, I think we're there. I tend to agree with Gary if we could keep it flat. Councilman Moore, I'm sorry, that'd be great. But again, we have to realize that with that CPI, goods and services keep going up, okay? A good example is 2 20-ounce Diet Cokes, and if you see now this is a 16.9 fluid ounce. You paid for one, you got the next one for $1. Well, that's ceased now. So instead of being, $2.80, now it's $3.14. So
My investment portfolio thanks you.
yes, I bet. But again, on the back side of that, we appear to have opportunities for growth, okay, which is evident in valuations.
Yes.
And there's also some other potential opportunities on the horizon that increases our taxing ability or what contributes to the tax base.
Well,
We have gone through some slow times, but Pocatello, okay, is on the brink of doing something that I have not seen done since BE came into the area pretty much, okay, for potential growth. And if we do this right and we're successful, I think we're going to be able to see a dramatic benefit to all the citizens of the Pocatello going forward. So, I appreciate the work that's gone into this by all the staff. I mean, it's always hard and painful every year at this time. It just seems like it comes too quickly. I mean, we get one done and we turn around working on the other one almost, so.
I agree with that.
Thank you for your work and effort.
Well, I will say this. I think this is one of the better budgets that I've seen. We address people. We addressed medical in that we took a hard look at the distribution this year and adjusted that appropriately. And we also are addressing the capital. And to me, that's a well-rounded budget. I don't know that you ever have a perfect budget because there's always needs that we may not be able to address at a given time. But in past years, I've seen us either address people or maybe some operating, but we've tended to neglect the capital side.
Right. And we know historically, streets to me is a good example. Michael's talking about inflation with products, paving materials inflate at 3% a year over the years, and we don't keep up with that cost. If we don't keep up with that, pretty soon we know what that creates.
Yep.
And it's not rocket science. It's if you don't keep up with the tons and the yardage, you can't fix the streets the way that we would like to have them fixed, and pretty soon you're way behind, and it has to do with the cost of the product.
And I can say in the early 2000s, we were definitely there where the streets had lots of issues.
And our streets right now probably are better they've been in
absolutely.
30 years. I mean, they're pretty remarkable, I think. And that's what I hear from people. They like to see that.
No.
What is that light glowing back there in the back room?
I'm walking on the high.
Would you agree with that, Jim? I mean,
I
you seem
agree
pretty happy with our
100%.
streets.
Yeah.
Just trust me, there was a time that wasn't the case.
I was probably one of those very vocal critics 30 years ago, but I'm a complimenter now.
This is an interesting experience to have the extremes
Yeah, that's
on
right.
one end and the other.
And Gary has had a profound impact on me with this because I was so excited when we were way down here on this chart. I mean, I was really excited there, but then I saw the impact of that decision making, and so I feel
We were
very
down
good
there
about
by an
it.
accident, folks.
Well, it happened, and
And
Well, it wasn't an
now that you've
accident.
been
It
to
was
the White
planned.
House, your opinion
That was a
holds a lot more
planned-
water.
absolutely, it
No,
showed.
that's where the assessor made the evaluation.
That's
This-
where
this is where the Central Corridor came up.
But it's also where the assessor made it.
Yeah, he did in 2000 and
50-some now.
that dip in 2012 was planned. It came off.
That was the increased valuation.
But the assessor there were a couple mistakes
We
in the
would've done
assessor
that.
as we moved forward in
That's why we
13 and 14 and 15
Yeah.
that cost us. And so,
And I don't think you were able to take that big dip. You felt it, just like
yeah,
Jim was saying.
no, it shows that was probably a mistake.
I think it's really been pretty remarkable that we've been able to do the things we've been able to do when you just take healthcare costs into account. I mean, they've been eating us alive now for 8 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to be able to stay afloat, still have reasonably good insurance for our employees.
Yes.
Take that out of the equation. What if healthcare hadn't have been an issue for 8 years?
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Life would be good, but it has been. And
It
we've
is
had
what
to
it
deal with
is, isn't
every
it?
year, every year.
Well, Mayor, I just think of the conversations that we've had as we've developed our budgets since I've been on the council in the last 7 years, and this last several months, the conversation has been way different than it was even just a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
a few years ago wasn't all that fun, but
It was way different this year than it was last year.
yeah. And so,
I think it's because Heidi's here.
maybe so. But I think if we can commit to ourselves to keep going down the track that we're on, we're going to be in a much greater place than we were with Gary.
I agree.
But I want to contact, one of the things, I work with a lot of our poor people in our community, and we mostly run with people who are middle class or higher. And one of the things that I think we do not hear and we don't feel as much as we should is the impact of $15 on people who are so marginalized they don't even know what median income is. And we have a significant population in our community that way. They don't even, if they doubled down on what they make, they might not make median income. And there's a bunch of people in our community, and I think we got to be cognizant of them, because I have a lot of friends, so I will pay more in taxes if it helps. You know, I hear them say that. But then I know that people who rent automatically get the brunt of this because the property tax is at a premium in a rental house because there's no exclusion. There's no homeowner's exemption or anything. So,
But the market drives rent prices, not your tax. You can't
Well,
just
but-
raise your rent because your tax went up if people
but-
aren't willing to pay that.
I understand that, but every time I see us raise taxes, I see the property taxes flow through, and it drives rent to a degree. People recoup it. And I just think we need to have some sensitivity to 40 or 50% of our community who $15 is several meals. You know, if they're living in a $100,000 house, a house that is paying taxes on $100,000.
Yeah.
And there's that side of this that I think we always have to have sensitivity to.
So Roger, I'm going to disagree with one thing, but I agree with you, and I'm trying to find a solution. I disagree that we have 40 to 50% of our public, of the citizens in Pocatello, living at that below poverty, at that
Well,
at
I
that
didn't say
rate.
below poverty, I said they struggle.
But they're there. You can make $1 million a year and struggle because you're spending it. But I think that we have.
You shouldn't struggle
You
very
do
much.
that. You do that. I thought you
You
were.
shouldn't struggle that much. Come on.
I guess what I'm saying is we've got a couple programs that we have invested in, the circuit breaker program, and we've also we added in the last few years, we added, was it $15,000, $10,000 or $15,000
On the utility
of
side?
utility money to SECA to help.
I want to say it's 12,000, but I'll have to
$12,000, so
check.
$12,000 to SECA to help that very need, because we are cognizant of that. We are concerned about that. Is the answer to take some money and add it to that SECA thing that will help some of those that are deep in need, or what is the answer to the question? Because I think we've got a really good, solid budget. I talk to and work with and I associate and I do a lot of things with those very people that you're talking about. And so I understand what you're saying. But
Well, I think
Is
if you
there-
go to any agency that helps with our struggling people, and they'll tell you that every year their need increases. Food Bank has to serve more people. SECA has to serve more people. There's just an increasing demand on those places. And so we've got kind of two groups of people on different tracks. And I'm just saying that we have to have a sensitivity to the people on the other track.
You know, I think we do, Roger. I do believe that we still have a long ways to go in terms of meeting all of the needs of all of the citizens. And there are things that this budget does not address. And I'm looking at our retirement community, you know. We're going to have to do something one of these days for our senior citizens through the Senior Citizen Center and other things like that. And we've got to do some planning to meet that demand because our population is aging and there are going to be fewer and fewer federal dollars come to us. And so we're going to have to handle these things ourselves that we've been depending on federal dollars in the past.
I think we help the ones in need as well, though, with the PRT system, the transit system we have. We spend with the library, and the library, that's all a free service that we spend, and we make sure that they have the ability to get there.
You also have the CDBG program.
The CDBG program is available, and so I don't think that we're leaving those people out at all. I think that if the feel is there that we need to do more to help them when it comes to paying a water bill or something with Sika, then the discussion shouldn't be, or the discussion should be, what are we giving to Sika and is that appropriate? How much of that $12,000 is being used? Do we need to increase that? Do we not need to increase that?
My point is simply a tax hits everybody. Giving to an entity only helps the people that go to that entity. And, everybody will feel a tax. Even if they're on circuit breakers, there's some pass along. And circuit breakers is a good program, but there's a lot of people that aren't there. But the tax hits everybody. And I understand that there's a whole bunch of people that it's just the way of living and existing. We absorb the tax and move on. But I know a lot of other people where it hits them hard. And the tax is a level application to all the population, where circuit breaker or the PRT or what we give to Sika or Aid for Friends, those are kind of the emergency situations. So I just want to temper our discussion with some sensitivity that tax is applied to everybody in our town, and that I don't. So when we up it, we're saying everybody participates in it.
And I'm okay with that. I don't disagree with that. Okay.
Okay. All right, but what are our thoughts, council?
I'm proud of what we've done, and I'm prepared to move forward.
I am as well.
I'm not. I like round numbers.
We're rounding up this time?
Remember that next year.
That's right. I think we've tried to get everything as round as we can. Okay, then, if there's...
I'm debating with myself whether to bring this up.
Go ahead.
Can I?
Sure.
Thank you.
Depends on what it is.
Our economic development position. I really like the idea of having an economic development specialist in the city, but I don't think we're ready to have one. We don't have a plan. We don't have a budget for them to operate under. Do we know exactly where they're going to be and what they're going to do? And until we have those answers, I don't think we ought to put that position in the budget.
I'd rather put it in and not do it. Personally, Steve, the Councilman Brown. I think we need to be prepared.
Whatever.
Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather leave it in and address it as we go forward. It may be something that we do not do, but I think we need to be prepared. I think economic development is one of the biggest concerns that we need to have as we go forward.
I agree with that 100%.
I tend to agree, but Joyce, do we have a budget for?
Okay, so within the general fund, you've always heard of the Division 0800, which is non-departmental. We have a 0801, which is, guess what, economic development. That's where we've always paid Bannock Development Corp out of, the $75,000. So what I did in setting up this $114,000 for publication, I didn't create a position over in salary projection. I just put a placeholder in professional services for $114,300. I could leave it within any line, you could leave it in professional services. We don't hold you accountable to the line, but then you have the ability, we don't have a designated person to manage this particular division, so it would sit there until you as a council decide what you want to do with it. But it will leave you dollars available for economic development. And that's what I'm kind of hearing you wanted to do.
So Joyce, here's a question for you. If we were to take that out, in mid-year, we figure out what we're looking at and what we want. Can we take any of that capital contingency additional and make that?
You can move it anywhere within the general fund without even an amendment, because that's all within the general fund.
Right.
There's no movement.
Steve, and I agree
Is that
with
what
your
you're
point,
asking?
but I also agree with Jim.
You can't.
I think it makes more sense to leave it in there. To me, the only downside of leaving it in there is if you don't hire a person in that budget year and you let that money slip away for something else. To me, that would be the downside of that. But it leaves you that ability that somewhere along the budget year, depending on what happens and who you're looking for, you may have a week that you all make the decision, hey, we got an opportunity to hire somebody, this is the person we're looking for. You're all geared up to do that, where if you take it out of there, that kind of takes that opportunity away from you. But I would be concerned about having $114,000 in there that you decide to do something goofy with. Not that you would, but to me, that would be the downside of leaving it in the budget.
Okay.
So Joyce, you had a...
Yes. If it's put into the Economic Development Division, I think you would have to come to terms with who would have authority to expend and whether we would have to come back to you for, because it wouldn't be really designed for anything. And it couldn't be used for any other purpose but economic development. That's what you're saying by putting it in there. It has to be for that purpose. So we wouldn't be able to use it to, say, buy a fire truck, right? Not unless council made that decision to move it from Economic Development Division up into the Fire Department Division, right?
But what could you do with it? Give us two examples.
Let's say an opportunity came up and we needed the mayor and let's say the planning director to go someplace to...
the Bahamas.
Well, I like that idea, but I doubt that would be...
There's an economic development conference
That's
there.
right.
But let's say you were going to speak to a possible company, and those dollars could be used for that. You could make those kind of decisions. I could put it into travel and training, and it can only be used for economic development, travel and training. Yeah, you'd have to leave some discretion, I believe, with the mayor to decide what does that mean and what would be appropriate.
And
But
I
that would
personally
be-
think you need to be careful of that, because I think we put that money in there for a position, and when you move it away from that, even though those may be good things, to me, that moves away from the intent, and I think that gets...
I would agree with that. If you're going to put it in for personnel, it needs to be there for personnel. If you
I
want
can move it
to
into
do that.
into the salary projection, then in that case, you can't expend unless it's a position. Unless,
Because Steve's concerns, I agree with those, but I think as long as you leave it in the right place, for what we intended it to do, then it kind of protects that.
And if we don't use it, it's there for next year, and
well, basically, if you don't expend those monies, it rolls
If
into
we
your
put-
reserves, but you still have it built for next
If
year.
we put the full 114 into salary projection, and it takes 7 months to come up with what we want to do with it, then we couldn't use what we didn't spend on a budget for that person to actually go do their job.
Well, you can make decisions to do that. There would be the ability, but it would have to be,
But you'd
There
have
would
to
be
have
a
a
budget
meeting and
amendment
decide
and-
that
it would need a
stuff.
budget amendment, but you would have to
Yeah,
come to a
yeah.
decision that you
That
are now
would work out
moving
really good.
salary dollars for another purpose.
Okay.
I think
and
the-
let's just hurry and get it figured out sooner than later.
I think
rather than-
that, I think the key is making sure that that money's protected for that position, if we figure out what we want there and what we want it to do with it.
If it's communicated to me what the purpose is, then I can monitor that and keep you informed.
I think this was put in the budget so that we would have a target that we all work towards of getting someone working for the city directly to help us in economic development. I think that there is an awareness that that $114,000 is what an annualized salary would be. But I think there's also awareness that we probably won't actuate the use of that fund until we're well into the budget year. So there is an encompassing thing that allows for some of the expenses for that position.
And my first concern when we added it after the meeting was that we had no other budget set aside. So you have a person and they don't have ability to do too much.
Yeah.
Because I would think an economic development person would have more than average travel.
Oh, agreed, but I don't think we're going to come up with something until
No.
at least the first of the year.
Right. And let's say it took the whole $114,300 to get the person you wanted. You would have the ability as the council to make the decision to allocate some of those capital contingency dollars into that budget to make it a full bore budget, to completion. And you wouldn't need an amendment, but you would have to give us direction.
Mayor?
Yes.
I've got one more question. Joyce, we talked about these funds. You got out to 80081.
That's a division of general fund.
How many funds or accounts in this city do we have out there that are being funded somewhat by previous budgets and are just sitting there that are not actively being used? And I don't answer, I'm not looking for an answer right now.
It's kind of an unusual question. The things that come to mind off the top of my head. Sorry, Melanie. I'm going to talk about 955. I'm going to talk about 962. These were funds. 955 was an old grant fund, and so when that grant fund was being operated, it had federal dollars that came in and program revenue that came in. When the grant went away, the city gets to keep what is sitting there as program revenue. Now, Melanie's used that as kind of an assist or help with her CDBG program, and so it's tagged purpose-wise for that purpose, okay? But is it an active budget? Does it have things happening all the time? No. It's kind of dollars sitting there. An old one, but we ended up using it, was Stanrod Trust. That was one that had dollars sitting there. The facade, or Fund 962 is another one. It has money set aside for facade improvements for businesses, and it doesn't always have activity in it. There's a couple of loans I believe we still have on that one, right? One or two?
On both of those, we have some outstanding loans that were long-term mortgages.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting to is the city has just a multitude of plots that.
Believe me, there's a lot of funds to deal with.
And so do we have monies out there that are pretty much inactive or stagnant? Okay.
Those would be the closest ones, but they really have a purpose, so I don't know how you want to cater to that,
Well, I think there comes a time when we need to look at some of these side funds and stuff and see what's funding them, why, and whether we change that or do away with them so we consolidate, because I mean, when you look at
I
that,
agree.
There's a bazillion of these, and I don't know if that's money that.
We've done some of that. I agree
Right, we
with
started
you,
that.
and we have cleaned up some. Even this year, we're going to have 963 go away. It was used to facilitate the building of the CRC gym floor, and because it was just sitting there and not very much money. Funds should never be real low dollars. In other words, I shouldn't create a fund for $2,000, okay? So that was one of those that was created that way. And John, I worked with John, and that one is now going to go away this year. Because yes, you get so many of these spread out, and you kind of lose track of where, of what should we be doing with this money, this money, this money.
Right.
And I don't believe we have too many of those. I'll take a look again
Okay.
and let you know if I think of any
We'll
others.
look at them. Okay. Thank you.
Council, other questions you might have? Any concerns that might be out there that haven't been brought up? Okay. Everything
Does this budget give us sufficient preparation for the economic advancement that we are anticipating in the county?
Oh, no.
Is there something we should be doing to be better prepared for the next year?
I think this prepares us as good as we can actually be prepared. You can't take more.
Unless it's speculation.
Yeah. You can't take more. And then it is speculation at best at this point. And so I think that I think it's a good budget. I think last year was a good budget. I would agree with Gary. It's the best two budgets that we've seen. And I think you can see the impact. I mean, what was it last year? The last years in the past, we were looking to try to figure out how to find $800,000 or $900,000, $1 million, and this year we had $80,000 or something like that. And so I think you can't do it all at once, but step by step, you're making the improvements that you need to in the community. My own opinion, I don't know. So if there's any other questions, no other comments, concerns, sounds great
So
then.
what's my direction? Just to be clear.
We're going to start over.
Oh, thank you. I will.
We're going to start all over. And
Am I leaving everything as it is?
that's what I understand. Yeah, right now we're leaving everything as it is, and we'll have a public hearing tonight on it.
Okay.
The council will have a little bit of time to think about the budget and where it is and what we've got.
Okay.
Well, we essentially don't make any more decisions till after the public hearing. Do we?
Public hearing tonight, and then we'll close it and with no action,
Right.
and then it will be prepared for ordinance on the 17th. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
That's correct. Unless I hear direction tonight from you to change anything, I will be publishing with our existing numbers as is.
So depending on the public hearing, we can make the changes we need to tonight. And then on the 17th, that's how the ordinance will show us the decisions we make tonight.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
You'll listen to the public hearing. I just need guidance after the public hearing to say, I want you to develop the ordinance as we have determined. If you want me to cut something, I have to know to cut it, okay? Because when I go to publish, I have to have all these, everything has to be just what it is, okay?
Do we have any indication what the county's going to do with their budget?
They're still in meetings. I've had a difficult time touching base with Christie because they've been in meetings consistently. I don't think they will adopt their budget or hold their public hearing until like the last week in August, so.
That's what I understand is when they'll do that, and right now they're looking at increasing.
Well, that's what I was looking, because, I mean, I understand there's some road and bridge projects, there's some other projects they need to do.
There's a number of things that they're looking to address in this year's
Because
budget.
I think it's important for people to know, and that there are 6 taxing districts that
Yes.
ultimately impact your property taxes.
Yes, and I have not heard anything from Christie about any reductions, so I assume that they are going to be taking dollars.
Sure. And out of all those taxing districts, we're the good guys. That's another good thing to remember.
Yeah.
That's right. We're the good guys. If you could get that in the minutes, we would appreciate that. Okay, then with no other questions, and I think it's clear when we make the decisions and what to do with it as we're moving forward tonight, then we should be in good shape, I think. Listen to the public hearing and make our decisions from there and publish and adopt it on the 17th.
Yeah, well, the next thing will happen is I'll create the ordinance. You'll have on the 17th, you'll vote on the ordinance, and then after that we have to publish. And then I'll be filing the L2 form by September 8th. That's the next few
Okay.
high critical items to get through budget development.
Super. Sounds great then. Thank you. Thank you for being here. With that, we are adjourned and we will move into a working lunch.